Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather. I am the Busy Hooker, and today we're going to be doing our April granny square. Now ours is not going to look like this. This is my test square and it turned out more like a rectangle, and then I tried to do some stitching of words on the front and it just did not turn out well, but the general idea is here. So Easter is the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and I thought what better way to represent April than to have that as our granny square. And so we're just going to do a simple cross with kind of a halo or a sun or a moon or whatever you want to call it as a backdrop to the cross. So you can use whatever colors you want, but I'm going to be using the I Love This yarn in the Ivory Metallic Sparkle. I will also be using I Love This wool in Brindle, I think it is. And then I'm going to be using Yarn Bee Soft Secret in Honey. We don't need a whole lot of it, so I'm just going to use the leftovers from our last project. Now, I promise I painted my nails last night. They were looking good. I made sure they were completely dry when I went to bed, and they are all chipped, and some of them are chipped almost down to the cuticle, and I don't know what happened. I thought they were cute colors, you know, pastel purple and white. I mean, those are good Easter colors, right? But I just cannot keep nail polish on for the life of me. Even the expensive stuff like the white nails, the white polish is Revlon, and those aren't actually chipped at all. Or hardly at all. It's the purple, and it's the Sally Henson that I was complaining about in a previous video. This stuff is the quick dry though, and it went on really well, but it just does not stay on. Like, it dries and then within an hour it's already chipping off. So even with a top coat on it. But anyway, let's get right into this square. Okay, so this square is going to be very simple. There's going to be a little bit of yarn carriage, but not a ton. So basically all you need to know is how to do a chain, how to do a single crochet, how to change colors, and then how to carry a color over a certain amount of stitches. So it's not too bad. Up when we get into the yellow, then where the horizontal piece of the cross starts, then it gets a little hairy, but it's not too bad. And honestly, you're not going to need me for most of this. So we're going to start off, and this measurement is based on my own tension and measurements from previous squares, but I'm going to chain 37. If you want to chain 37 with me, that's fine. If you want to do it based on your tension and how big you made your other squares, that's fine too. Just figure out, I'll be using a size I9 hook. So just figure out how many you need to chain based on your tension, your yarn size, your hook size, and the size of your previous squares. So I'm going to chain 37, and I'm going to speed that up, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, there's 37, and we're going to turn our work, and we'll do 2 rows before we even bring our brown into the mix. I should mention that 37 is not the full length of my final of what the final project is going to be. We are going to go around the border a few times with the ivory and the brown wool yarn just to finish it off and add a couple, an inch or two to the final product. So if this is looking, a little short to you, do not fret. You can always go around the border with a complementing color of yarn. So in this next row, I'm going to skip one and go into the next stitch and do a single crochet, and then I'm not going to skip anymore, but I will single crochet all the way down this chain, and by the end you should have 37 single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up, and actually I'm going to speed it through the next row as well. So we're going to do this twice. We're going to do 37 single crochet, turn the project, and then 37 more single crochet, and then turn the project, and then we'll start on row 3, which is where we start doing color changes. So I will meet you at the beginning of row 3. Okay, we have finished row 2, and we are actually going to bring in the I Love This Wool Brindle color, or your preferred color for the cross. We are going to do 17 single crochets with the ivory before we incorporate the brown color. And if you've noticed, I've kind of zoomed in on our graph, which I forgot to mention you can find in a link to the graph in the description below. It is free. You may make changes, download your own version and make changes to it, I'm fairly certain. We are going to chain 1 on row 3. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do 17 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and one more, 17. Okay, and we are actually going to leave on the 17th single crochet, we're going to leave those 2 ivory loops on our hook and bring in the brown color. We're going to loop that and pull it through, and then we have to remember to carry our ivory unless you're going to have a separate skein or bobbin for the other side of your project, but I don't really recommend doing that just because it gets really messy. I tried it. For the last project, the bobbins worked really well, but for this one, it is not going to, or at least it didn't for me. Maybe it will for you. But anyway, so we are going to cross keeping our tail out of the way, we're going to cross our ivory over our brown, and we're going to do 3 single crochets with the brown color. The ivory crossed over, we're going to do 3 single crochets with the brown. And we just want to make sure that we're carrying that ivory behind the work. And then on our 3rd single crochet, we're going to go into that 3rd stitch, yarn over, pull up the brown, drop the brown, and then pull the ivory through. And I am going to go ahead and cross my brown over my ivory just to secure it there. And then I'm going to finish the row, dropping the brown where it is, just so we can pick it up there on row 4. And if anyone has any questions about this, please definitely feel free to leave those questions in the comments below. haven't had any questions yet, so I'm assuming either nobody is watching these videos or my crochet alongs have been fairly easy to follow, or they've been so daunting that, you know, people begin watching and then run away and never come back. Trust me, when I started some of these projects, I thought to especially the last one, the Tunisian crochet, I was so overwhelmed. I did not think I was going to get a video out in time. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? What is this nonsense? But we did it. We got it out. So it was late, but it was there. All right. And we are done with row 3. We're going to turn our project. And if you want to, as you go along, you can always tuck in your tails so that they're not in the way. I'm actually going to do that with my ivory. I don't have enough brown for my tail to tuck into yet, but once we build that up, I'm going to go ahead and tuck the tail of my brown yarn in as well. And there we go. We have one less tail to get in our way while we're working. Okay, so rows 5 through 18 are going to be exactly the same as we just did. We're going to use the ivory yarn up until we hit our first brown single crochet, and then we're going to do brown 3 across and then the rest ivory. Don't forget to carry your yarn through the brown, but other than that, I think I'm going to do the next however many rows, 13 rows. I'm going to do the next 13 rows in fast motion, so I will meet you at the end of row 18. Okay, we are on row 19 here. We are going to do 14 stitches, single crochets of the ivory before incorporating our honey color or gold. And I have at this time tucked all of the loose tails that were kind of waving around and getting in the way. So we are going to chain one. Again, this is row 19. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I must be missing a stitch somewhere because we need to do 3 gold stitches here before we get into the brown. So I'm going to stop at 13. The important part is that we have the room for 3 stitches before switching to brown over here. I'm going to get my gold over here. It's kind of a mess. Still on the bobbin from the shamrock square. I'm going to actually leave 2 loops on from the previous stitch and join with the gold or honey. Make sure my loops are as tight as they can get. And then I'm going to make sure I carry my ivory color because we will be using that again. Make sure everything is pulled down tight. And we're going to do 3 single crochet. So on this 3rd single crochet, I'm going to pull up the loop and leave 2 gold loops on my hook, and then I'm going to join the brown because now we need to do 3 brown stitches, and we are going to carry both the ivory and the gold through the 3 brown stitches. Then I'm going to leave 2 brown loops on my hook, and we're going to do 3 gold stitches. So pull the gold through, and I'm going to cross the brown over to make sure that we secure that spot for it, but we can drop the brown now, but we're still carrying the ivory. Then we're going to do 3 stitches, and on the 3rd stitch we're going to yarn over, pull through, and then pull the ivory through the 2 gold loops on the hook. Now, if you notice, the next row up, we have 1 more yellow stitch. So I'm going to actually carry the yellow 1 stitch over. And then, just like with the brown, I'm going to cross my yarn over my work here and over the ivory yarn, and then I'm going to finish off my row. Okay, so row 20 will be the same, except we're going to start the gold 1 stitch sooner, which is why we carried it, and we'll end it 1 stitch later. So we want 4 gold stitches on each side, but we want to keep the brown exactly where it is. So we're going to start it sooner in this first ivory stitch, and then we're going to end it 1 stitch later in this first ivory stitch on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's actually going to be that way all the way through to row 24. And then row 25 is going to be exactly the same as row 24. There's no increasing the number of yellow stitches at all. I will see you at the end of row 25, beginning of row 26. Okay, everyone, we are on row 26. Now, at this point, I personally would snip my brown and my honey with enough of a tail to tie in, and then I would tie all my loose ends in. The reason being that we are not going to use the gold for another 3 rows, and then the brown, I forgot to carry it over. So as I was finishing this row, I should have carried my brown all the way through to this last gold stitch, but I didn't. So I need to snip it and rejoin it here in the next row. So that is what I'm going to do. And this next row is just going to be ivory and brown again, with a lot more brown because we're doing 3 rows of our cross arms. And so I'm just going to quickly tie in my ends, and then we will begin our row 26. Okay, so for row 26, we're going to go ahead and chain 1, and then we're going to do a single crochet with the ivory until we hit that first honey colored stitch, and then we will join our brown into the stitch before that. So let's see, we have 1. And okay, that is our last ivory stitch. So I'm going to leave these 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to grab my brown, and I'm going to join in here and pull all my loops tight, try to keep my tails out of the way, or my one tail, I guess. So then we are going to carry our ivory color, because we're going to use it again on this other side. We're going to do a single crochet with the brown all the way across to the other side to the last gold stitch of the previous row, carrying our ivory the whole way across. So I'll do this row in regular speed for you guys. And if you need to, as you're doing this row, feel free to pull the strand of ivory that you're carrying. Just tug on it a little bit to pull it straight through your stitches, so it's not all bunched up and poking through. Okay, we are on our last honey colored stitch here. So if you see, we have our honey stitch on the hook, and then the next one is ivory. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the brown loop through and leave 2 brown loops on my hook. And then I'm going to pull the ivory through those 2 loops. And then I'm going to cross my brown over the ivory so that we secure our spot for the next row. So I've crossed my brown over the front of my work here. And then I'm going to finish off the row in ivory. And I hope you all are having an amazing, or had an amazing Easter Sunday. If you're watching this on Easter, happy Easter. If you're watching this later, I hope your Easter was amazing. Tell me a little bit about it in the comments below. Did you go to church? Did you celebrate with the kids, the parents, the grandparents? What did you do for Easter? Did you bake a ham? Is that a thing? Is that a thing people do on Easter? Do y'all bake hams? I don't know what we're gonna do for Easter tomorrow. Supposedly we are supposed to be going to the in-laws' house, so that should be fun. So rows 27 and 28 are going to be exactly the same, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through those because they are exactly the same as what we just did. Okay, so rows 29 through 35 are just a repeat of rows 19 through 25, but in reverse. So instead of growing by 1 stitch each row, we're going to actually decrease, which means you don't have to carry your yellow 1 stitch over. So that's the good news. We will need to rejoin our yellow, so we'll have to carry our brown all the way back unless you want to cut it and rejoin it back to the middle here. I'm not going to do that, just to, I don't know, eliminate the number of tails we have, speaking of which. So we'll do ivory stitches up until here. And then we'll do yellow stitches up until here, and then we'll go back to brown, and then yellow all the way over, and then ivory. And then we'll be decreasing the number, not decreasing as in the number of stitches, but we'll be making less and less honey colored stitches or gold color stitches per row until we get to the last 2 rows, which are going to be all ivory. So we are in the home stretch, folks. We are almost done for row 29. We're going to chain 1 and we are going to single crochet all the way until we hit brown. And I forgot to unravel more of my ivory, so I'm going to be struggling with it for a little bit. Okay, we're on our last ivory stitch here, so I'm going to pull the yarn through and I'm going to leave 2 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to join gold and tighten down my loops here. And then I'm going to carry both the ivory and the brown along with the gold here, because we are going to use both of those colors later on, and we want to take them with us. Get that tail out of there. Okay. So we want, I don't know how many gold stitches. You may be able to see some of that brown and white through the gold because the Yarn Bee Soft Secret is not, it's a little bit finer than the other yarn that I'm using. So since we're carrying 2 strands of yarn that are both thicker each than the gold yarn, it is going to show through just a little bit, but it doesn't really bother me that much. Okay, so I think this is our last gold stitch here. So I'm going to drop the yellow and pick up the brown. I'm not actually dropping the yellow, but we're not going to be using it right this moment. And luckily, we only have to carry the brown that far. We don't have to carry it the rest of the time. So I'm going to pull the brown through here, and then we're going to carry the gold and the white. We're going to do 1, 2 stitches. On the 3rd stitch, we're going to leave both of those loops on our hook, pick the gold back up, pull it through. Oops, forgot the gold. And then I'm going to tighten down my loops and then cross my brown over my work here so that I have a strand coming across here. And then I'm going to continue to the end of the brown in the previous row, but with the gold color while I carry my ivory. Okay, we are on our last brown stitch, if you can see it. So I'm going to pull up, so I have 2 loops of gold on my hook, and I'm going to pull my ivory through, tighten down my loops, and then we don't need to carry the gold anymore because we're not going to be doing any, like, we're not going to have more yellow stitches in the next row. We're actually going to have less. So now we're going to finish off the row with the ivory. And we're going to turn our work. If I wanted, I suppose I could tie that gold tail in. I might just do that so it doesn't get in the way. This next row is going to be exactly the same as the previous row, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through it. Just make sure you change colors when you need to, carry your yarn when you need to, and I will see you on row 31. Okay, folks, we are on row 31, and this is when we start to kind of decrease the number of yellow stitches and increase the number of ivory stitches. As you can see, I kind of didn't really pull my ivory all the way through straight, so that's what happens. It just kind of pokes through. Not a huge deal, but so we are going to work ivory single crochet into every stitch, including this first one, and then we'll switch to yellow, brown, gold, and then we will work gold into every stitch until the second to last one, because we want to work a white stitch into this last yellow stitch or gold stitch. So we will do this first one together, and then I'm going to do the rest of them in speedy motion, just to save time. And also, it's the first really hot day of the year here in Colorado, and being in a closed door, closed windowed room with my very hot computer in my work clothes because I rushed up to my office to get this done. I am sweating and super dehydrated, and I wanted to try to get this done in one sitting. So we are doing ivory stitches all the way up until, let's see, here's the last ivory stitch, and then we want to go into this first gold stitch, and then we want to switch colors. So we want to switch to gold, and we do want to carry the ivory all the way down, of course. So we're switching to gold and carrying the ivory. Sorry if the last few minutes my voice sounded far away. My mic was not positioned correctly. Okay, so this is the last gold stitch. So then we want to switch over to brown. And do 3 brown stitches, carrying both our gold and our ivory. And of course, we want to make sure we tug all those straight because we don't want those poking out between our stitches. Here's our last brown stitch. So then we'll switch back to gold, and we'll pull our loops tight and cross our brown over our work here so as to secure that stitch. And we will continue with the gold, carrying our ivory. I think I made the top of my cross a little crooked and offset from the bottom part of my cross. So make sure you're counting your stitches, folks. Otherwise, that is what can happen. All right, we are on our second to last gold stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to pull through my ivory, and then I'm going to cross my gold over my work just like with the brown, and I'm going to finish this row in ivory. So you'll want to do the same thing for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Just make sure that you're making one more ivory single crochet in the row on each side of the cross, and one less gold single crochet on each side. And then by row 36, you should be cutting off your brown and gold yarn and only doing the last 2 rows in full ivory. I'm going to speed up the next 4 rows just to save some time, and I will see you on row 36. Okay, folks, your square should now look like this. We only have 2 more rows to go, and so since they are purely ivory colored rows, I'm going to snip these yarns here and tie these loose ends in. Okay, so these last 2 rows will be really simple. I think what I'm gonna do is go around the border with a single crochet, and I'm going to go back and forth between ivory and brown, the Brindle color from the I Love This yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and you guys, I hope this was easy to follow. If you have any questions, like I said, leave them down below in the comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified of our next video. We do 1 monthly granny square to it's themed after the month that it's in. So of course today's granny square is Easter themed for April. Next month, for May, I have something in mind. I hope it does work out, but I'm definitely gonna have to start working on it like today to make sure that I can reproduce it for the camera. And yeah, so check out my other videos, and I don't know what else to say. Happy Easter, happy Sunday. And until next time, guys, happy crafting.